Westbrook, and I am the host of the I Love Being Sober podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to provide educational content to people that are struggling with addiction, parents, spouses, family members, and friends of people that may or may not want to get clean and sober, and to people that just want to learn a little bit more about what successful recovery looks like. I'm here today with my good friend, Donny Starkins. Donny's yoga journey started in 2005 by searching for pain relief after 7 operations in his left knee and an addiction to painkillers. Fast forward to today, Donny has many years of sobriety and has become one of the dynamic leaders in his industry. He's a professional speaker, teacher, and coach leading classes, workshops, and seminars all across the world. Donny is an ambassador for Lululemon and works directly on their Mindfulosphy Team as both a yoga and meditation teacher and personal development coach. In addition, he is the official yoga instructor for the Phoenix Suns and educates other professional athletes in ways of yoga and mindfulness. With an emphasis on mindfulness, he challenges each student to explore the things getting in the way of their purpose. His calm, focused instruction and peaceful energy makes even the most difficult scenarios possible to work through. Donny's teaching creates an overall connected, grounded, and inspired experience for all levels of yoga and personal development. Donny's purpose is to help others find their purpose through the teachings of yoga, meditation, and personal development coaching. He's committed to living the yoga practice off the mat and sharing it with the world. Donny, welcome to the show.
Thank you, my friend. That's a really nice, lengthy intro. But I'm grateful to be here, and it's an honor to be talking sobriety and recovery with you, my friend.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm super grateful to have you here. And we've been friends for quite some time. I think we probably met in 2013 or so.
Yep.
And I've learned a ton from you, and we've gone to Wanderlust together. I remember we went to Wanderlust together in Aspen. What was that, like 2015, 2016 or so?
Yeah, 2015, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just been amazing to watch your growth and your transformation throughout the years, like from beginning, and it's like, early sobriety. We're still sick, right? so you've got like the early sobriety, and then I think you had just started teaching yoga. You were still pretty new when we first met.
Yeah, I had taught a little bit, and then took a little break, and then was getting going again when I got sober again the second time. Yeah.
Right. So today we're going to talk about sobriety, finding one's purpose, self-love, and how yoga and meditation are the keys to sobriety in your experience. And first, I think I want to start by let's go back to your when you first, I guess, realized that you needed to be sober. You first realized you had a problem when you first started attempting to get clean and sober. Let's kind of start there.
Okay. Yeah. So, when I first started, I just really quick to get there. I'm just from Phoenix, grew up here my whole life, played baseball all the way up until my senior year in college. In my senior year in college, I had a major traumatic knee injury, big surgery on my knee. It was a cadaver transplant of my meniscus. I was the first person in Arizona to ever have this surgery. The surgery was a disaster. I was bedridden for a month and a half. They were prescribing me 80 Percocet a week for a month straight. And then the doctor cut me off cold turkey after a month. And that was kind of the beginning for me. And it was the perfect storm of baseball ending for me, a major traumatic knee surgery, getting prescribed that amount of pills, having to drop out of my classes my senior year because my intention, I knew I was not going to be able to play my senior year, but I only played in 15 games. So I could medical redshirt and maybe play my another senior year. So I just said, oh, I'm not going to be able to do anything. And finals are coming up. I'll just have the surgery and I'll just be studying all the time. Well, I was so messed up from the surgery, from a pain standpoint, and then the pain medicine, which was messing me up, but it wasn't giving me a reprieve from the pain at all. I remember being a month into the surgery and going, this doctor had to have messed up. How am I dying in pain, taking all these pain pills and still not getting reprieve from pain? And a month and a half later, I turned the corner pain wise. 8 months after that, my body ended up rejecting the cadaver piece that they put in. But if I backtrack, really, it was the day I woke up from that really big surgery where when I woke up, I just knew I would never play baseball again. From the signs of trauma and the scarring and the unbearable pain, I just knew baseball was over for me. So it was really that day and for many years after where my world started to get turned upside down from a life of an addiction to pills. But I did plenty of other drugs and everything imaginable. But really, that's what had its grip on me.
Were you experimenting, or do you think you kind of had a problem before that surgery?
Well, I had possibly. I mean, I know baseball kept me clean because we'd have drug tests,
Right. Okay.
random drug tests. But like, if there was any opportunity, like the summertime, I was always hanging out with the guys on the team that would, push the limits and smoke weed for the month that we had like a grace period where we weren't going to be at school. So we knew we wouldn't get tested. So there was the behaviors there for sure. Definitely signs of, I just love to be part of the party. So yes, there was definitely behaviors there before that. But yeah, that really set it into motion, just a real big mess for many years after. And it wasn't so I placed a lot of blame on the doctor who screwed me over, gave me all these pills, then cut me off cold turkey. The surgery didn't work. I go back to the doctor with this, my knee is like swollen huge because my body's rejected this piece. And the doctor tells me, well, I can do the surgery, but I can't be accountable financially. So I'm having to pay for the surgery. I'm a guinea pig for him, he'd never done this surgery before. The surgery doesn't work. And I go back to him and he tells me, well, you're going to have to pay for it. So now the resentments are just piling up. But finally, when my life got so bad, and it got bad, I overdosed on a combination of pills. I was in Rocky Point, Mexico when it happened. But even like my brother and my brother-in-law drove in the middle of the night to Rocky Point, Mexico and picked me up in some, just crap hole emergency room and drove me back. And the next day I woke up at my mom's house and I don't have a problem. I'm not going to treatment. I'm not going to stop my life for 30 days and go to treatment. I've got stuff to do where I didn't have anything going on for me.
Yeah.
So even after that overdose, I wasn't ready, which is insane. So I would go to meetings because
what year was that?
Oh, geez. So the first time I had a decent length of sobriety, so it was 2008.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I would go to meetings basically to keep my parents off my back. And so I didn't have to go to a rehab facility and have that stigma and go away. So it was like, go to meetings, keep them off my back. I'd go to these meetings and I would be like, my motivation is I'm never going to be like these people. These people are miserable. I'm way better than them. That's the way it was insanity, the way I would go into these meetings, like I was better than them. But then I ended up going to treatment. And when I got into treatment, I finally was like, what the hell happened to my life? Going from this baseball player, going to a drug addict, where did it all go wrong? And at its core, when I stopped blaming other people and let go of some of the resentments, it was that I lost my purpose. I lost the only thing I ever knew, which was baseball, the love of my life. And then one day it was gone and I didn't want to feel the emotional pain, the physical pain, whatever. It was the emotional pain of that loss that at its core was why I did what I did. And so when I was able to own that and look at it and stop letting go of the resentments, that's where the healing began for me.
Okay. Okay. And then once you realized that that was kind of like I went, at what point did you really decide, okay, I want to do this for me? Because that, for a period of time there, you were just trying to get clean and sober to get your parents off your back. At what point did you decide, hey, I want to do this for me?
Yeah. So it was when I finally just surrendered. I was so like, I just remember waking up every single morning, being riddled in pain, fear and anxiety and stress, and isolating myself. And I would wake up, and I could get pretty much any prescription because of the history of my knee.
Yeah.
But that prescription would last a month prescription would last 4 or 5 days. And it was like a pretty hefty prescription. So there was this cycle of like going and getting my pain meds. And then 5 days later, I would go to my psychiatrist, because I could find a good psychiatrist that wouldn't question me and just give me a whole bunch of Xanax. And so it was like, and then that would last 5 days. And then I'm like on the street, and like not literally on the street. Well, I guess at some point, but buying them from people that I knew that had them. And it was just this vicious cycle where I'd wake up every morning, and the first thing I would think about wasn't grab water, think about things I'm grateful for, or take a shower. It was pop pills, so that on an empty stomach in 15 minutes, I'll have this calming sense over me, and then I can go deal with life for a couple hours until the pills would wear off, and then it would all start again. So it was that vicious cycle where I finally was tired of it, and I surrendered. And when I got into treatment, I was like, God, just tell me what to do to get it right. I've tried all these other ways. Tell me. And guys came in every night at 7 p.m. to host a meeting. And day one in treatment, it was a PA meeting, the two guys that came in. And so I prayed to God in my bed that morning and that night. Guys came in and said, go to meetings, get a sponsor, work the steps with that sponsor. It was all the same things they were saying before. I just had never heard it. So it was like, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I asked God to speak to me, and he did it through the mouths of the guys that were running that meeting that day. And so after day one, I knew what I needed to do to get it right this time. I had some work to do in therapy and the benefits of what treatment gives you, but I knew what I needed to do once I left there. So I left, I rocked it out for 3 years. Right about at 3 years, I stopped.
And what was the date?
So I went from 2000, I don't remember the exact date of my relapse. So I went from November, I think it was November 16th of 2008. And then my new sobriety date is May 5th, 2013. So there's like 3.5 years, and then about a year of just like going back out there.
Okay. So 3.5 years, you were able to stay clean and sober. And then what led to the relapse
Yeah. So what led to it? So I hurt my other knee, my good knee, playing sober softball. So my sober softball on Sundays was like my only connection to sobriety at that time. I hadn't used or drink, but for the 3 months leading up to that, I stopped going to meetings. I stopped talking to my sponsor. I isolated. I hurt my knee, and I knew I was going to have this surgery, and I didn't prepare for it like I would today and surround myself with people. I did it on my own. And it was, compared to these other surgeries I had, this was really nothing. But I woke up from the surgery, and I loved the way that I felt. And 5 days later, I was back in the doctor's office lying about the level of pain I was having. So that's what sent me back out. But it was all the stuff leading up to that. Obviously, I was choosing that I was going to relapse before it actually happened. And I strayed away from the middle of the herd, and I got picked off.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I mean, we see this all the time, right? I mean, somebody gets clean and sober, they're connected, they're going to meetings, they have a sponsor, they're doing the deal, as they say. But then as time goes on, they stop taking suggestions. They don't have healthy habits, healthy lifestyle habits to replace their old unhealthy lifestyle habits, which were drinking and doing drugs to soothe the pain, right? And then your most recent sobriety date is in 2013. And so tell me, so what led to that sobriety date? And that's kind of that's like, now you're, again, and I remember, I've seen, it's like people get sober, and the majority of people, like more than 90%, are not able to stay sober for a year. And then, so it's kind of like 67% of people that are able to stay sober for a year are able to stay sober for 5 years. So 5 years is kind of the next hurdle. And I remember when I got my 5-year chip, I remember people saying, "Congratulations, you're no longer a newcomer." And it's like, what? and if you think about it, or if you think about it, doctors, dentists, airline pilots, they're monitored for 5 years. They're monitored for 5 years, and their success rate is more than 90%. The average person, their success rate is less than 10%, right? That's not an accident. So once you stay clean and sober for 5 years, and I think, in my opinion, you see that first 5 years is when you develop some new healthy behaviors to replace your old unhealthy behaviors. So tell me kind of what happened in that first 5 years of recovery for you that really helped solidify your, your recovery?
Well, it was learning from the first time and just taking that, what can I learn and how can I grow from it? And having 3.5 years and then going back out and having to stand up for 30 days as a newcomer again. In the beginning, that really buried me in some more guilt and shame. But today, that relapse is the best thing that ever happened to me. And anytime I have an anniversary, a birthday, I will always talk about the slip and the relapse, because, man, it's just, I feel like it's so important for other people to hear, because that is the reminder that the work never stops. The work will never stop on me. If I want to be free, and I always say, Donny, how free do you want to be when I'm doing things half measure? If I want to be free, the work will never stop. And so it was sharing my story. So I strategically do things very selfishly today, but thank God they're in ways that actually help other people and not destroy and destruct like my path and everything around me. So being in the public eye a little bit with teaching yoga and speaking publicly about it. I created this event. I did some deep leadership and personal development work with one of my teachers who's now become my friend, Sean Korn. I know you've met her also. Mm-hmm. And it was Off the Mat Into the World is her nonprofit, her leadership organization. And she said, I think it was at Aspen, or I think it was the one maybe you were at. She just has a way with words. And she said the words, "How dare we not?" And those words like this, she was speaking to my soul. And I was like, is this chick in recovery? Like, she is speaking everything. Right. And I talked to her after the class. And she told me about this leadership program she has. It was the next month in Minnesota. So I go to it. She's not in recovery. She's sober, but she's not in recovery. She's just chosen to be sober, but she's basically walking the walk. And so we go to the leadership training, and she says the words again in a yoga pose, and we're holding these like tough yoga poses for like 5 minutes, and she's just saying things, and things are stirring up inside of me. And she says, "How dare we not?" Again, and to me it was, how dare I not share my story? Meaning to the yoga community. People closest to me knew, but not everybody knew. And so I created this event called Sunday Yoga Service, and we raised money for our organization. And the first event, I shared my story, and everything changed that day. Finding my voice, people messaging me about what I said. Like one lady, I remember, she lost her husband a month before this event, and how that message just helped her so much heal. And I was like, oh my God, everything I was so afraid of, like worrying about what people think about me. And And that changed everything. And it stacked up a huge layer of accountability where like everybody knows that's my deal now. And I'll kind of lose my purpose and lose my job if I go back out there and start using again.
Yeah. There's a huge layer of accountability when you work in recovery, like you work or I mean, to your point, you shared your story with the world. It's out there, like everybody knows, and now you've found your purpose, right?
Totally. I say that my wound, my past, the addiction, the wound of my addiction has given me an access point to a greater purpose, and which is to teach, inspire, and empower others to own their greatness and step into their purpose. And yeah, I mean, the fact that if I think about who I hurt and the decisions that I made and the person that I was in the past in my addiction, and how that can actually help people today, man, there is like this enormous amount of freedom that I feel that I don't have to feel guilty or shameful anymore about the terrible stuff that I did back in my addiction. I am free from that. And I can actually help others to know that like your story is actually not that bad. People are like worried about things they're going to tell me. And I'm like, dude, let me tell you about my story. And then they're like, wow. So it's that common peril that actually connects us where I can say, I get it. And I'm not going to judge you because trust me, listen to the stuff that I did.
And I think it's interesting. We look back at our past before we got clean and sober, and the selfish, self-centered Donny, and the things that you did and the decisions that you made were because you wanted to be happy, joyous, and free. Like you wanted more money, you wanted more sex, you wanted more women, because those are the things that you thought were going to lead to being happy. But really what those things lead to is shame, guilt, and feeling empty, right? And then now what we've learned is that sharing our story, being of service, helping another person find their purpose leads to being happy, joyous, and free and living a fulfilled life.
I mean, absolutely. You nailed it. And it's just nice to know like so many valuable tools from the 12-step programs and therapy and personal development. It's all tied into personal development, but just being able to know that like helping others is the quickest way to get out of a funk, and actually being of service is where I find my joy and my freedom. And so to be able to move it into a career, like selfishly say, hey, this is just what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
And to be able to like help others, I'll do anything to help someone not go down the road that I did. And whether it's an athlete or whether it's just a teenage kid, like whatever the age, I think we all have an idea of what our purpose is. And maybe it came from our parents that said, you need to do this in order to be successful, or it's what society says, you need to do this in order to be happy and free. But like really when we're doing that, we're just living somebody else's purpose. And so to be able to like help somebody chip away at all the crap and all the old stories to find their own purpose is like the coolest thing ever. And I just leading in and doing events, working stuff with Lululemon that I do with their internal employees. And I will start off this whole event that we do as it's basically the internal, it's called Purpose and Practice, and it's for all the Lululemon internal employees. And I start off the whole thing and share my story. So I start off and I say, my whole life, I thought my purpose was to be a professional baseball player. That was the plan. I was going to make it to the big leagues, be able to fulfill my childhood dream. And then I talk about what happened, like I shared already, and then talking about what my purpose is now. And everybody will say, that's so vulnerable. Thank you for sharing that. That's not vulnerable to me today. Standing on a stage is still vulnerable, but sharing my story, I'm comfortable with that now. But what it does is it activates the whole experience for everybody else to give them permission to share their stuff and not be ashamed of it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I've seen you share. I've taken your yoga classes. Like I've seen you probably hundreds of times, more than hundreds of times, and to watch you get vulnerable in front of a group, I think what that does is that just creates a vibe. It creates an energy of uh, it allows people to bring their walls down and people, because they see you get vulnerable, they're able to get vulnerable. And you talk a lot about um, doing the work, and you talk a lot about self love. So what is for you today? I'm sure that doing the work, right, has evolved, and today doing the work is different than when you first started teaching yoga, or when you were first in recovery. And I kind of would compare it to because doing the work is spirit. That's how you become spiritually fit, right? And when you go to the gym and you work out and you get in shape, you're not in shape forever. Like, you have to keep on going to the gym in order to continue staying physically fit. So for you, how do you continue doing the work, and how do you stay spiritually fit?
Well, it starts, if I look at my day, it starts in the morning, and it starts with meditation. This has been a life changer, game changer for me. I used to wake up in the morning, grab my phone, look at email, look at text, look at social media, right into reactivity. And I was really a big mess in the morning when I would do that. And I finally started choosing. I had a coach help me make the decision and took me through this meditation to choose to not do that first, and to choose to meditate, even if it's just a couple minutes. But making that choice is that first little mental win every day, where I'm choosing to love myself and choosing to lay a solid foundation for my day, and not get into reactivity by grabbing my phone and going into that mode. So it starts my first hour of my day. I call it sacred. It really is sacred to me, because if I don't do the things I need to, I'm a mess. And I do these things, and really it's just meditation and working out, yoga, moving my body, anything in that first hour. These are my non-negotiables. If I don't do them, things get messy because I don't feel good. I do this all to feel good. I used to do yoga and weights to look good. Now it's just, I want to feel good. And if I feel good, I'm going to be a better person. So people think meditation's about getting enlightened and being zenned out and not thinking. I meditate and I work out and do yoga to be a better person. That's as simple as it can get. So being in that first hour and staying consistent with that, and then just spiritually fit for me is just staying connected to other men in sobriety. I mean, I do personal development coaching, and a quarter of my clients are all in sobriety or wanting to get sober. So I get to be connected to people every single day. So yoga, meditation, staying with the connection. And right now with what's going on, selfishly, I just started 2 online meetings, because in the beginning I was like, oh my God, we used to be able to go to a meeting anywhere, anytime. And now you can't. So I just started my own for my own selfish reasons. And, that's helping others too. So it's just staying connected, going to meetings. But yoga and meditation, I would say for me, are as important. It's like another piece of the pillar, or another leg on the stool of my own sobriety.
And speaking to yoga, a lot of people think that yoga is just it's a workout. It's a physical workout, and I've heard people say, yeah, yoga's not hard enough. I really want to get a good physical workout, which you can get a really good physical workout with yoga, depending on which class you take. But it's like, at the end of a yoga class, I'm grounded. My mind is calm. I'm more aware. There's so much to yoga. And the other thing I found is there are a lot of people that are in recovery that are also that are also, yoga and recovery, they kind of cross over, right? I mean, there's lots of parallels between a yoga class and 12-step recovery. What do you see what are the kind of the similarities that you see between yoga and 12-step recovery?
Well, it's all just like it all ties into personal development. And some people might not like what I have to say about this, but I feel like if there was anything missing from the 12 steps, anything at all, which it has almost everything, it is the movement, the yoga, the mindful movement, the idea that our issues are in our tissues. There is no separation between the mind and the body. So all that resentment, guilt, shame, trauma, it's in our bodies. And the 12 steps offers that pathway to share. You just share your crap, share your deepest, darkest secrets, but on a mind, body, energetic level. Just speaking it doesn't remove it. And what does remove it is when you move your body mindfully and you breathe mindfully. So maybe it's not just yoga, but there's intention. Maybe it's some like ecstatic dance, or it's some other type, Tai Chi, other ways to actually move it out of your body or shift that energy. And my experience is I've seen people in sobriety with many years, and they say things and I'm like, man, you're still sick as hell. And I'm judging, I get that, but I'm sitting back and going, why would you say that? And you have this much time underneath your belt. And I'm immediately thinking about the newcomer, right? And so when I take a step back and I just see through the eyes of compassion, it's like, well, maybe they don't practice yoga. Maybe they don't have like that extra level. Like to me, adding the yoga is recovery 2.0 and leveling up your sobriety. So I know some old school people might not love what I say about that, but that's just my own belief. And I know for me, like being able to move that energy has given me a freedom like that is on a whole nother level beyond just the 12 steps.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I believe, it's like you've got being sober is, there's being sober and then there's being in recovery. And when you're in recovery, it's way more than just staying sober, right? It's doing the spiritual work. It's exercising, it's moving your body, it's taking care of yourself, it's meditation, it's having healthy relationships with men and with women. There's way more to it than just staying clean and sober. So you mentioned coaching earlier, like you have a coach, right?
Yes.
And how has your coach, because I mean, like coaching is a topic that a lot of times people believe that, for example, a coach is the same thing as a sponsor, or a coach is a paid sponsor, which in my experience is just not true. And it's like anything that we do, if we hire a coach, and especially if we pay for the coach that we hire, like I'm more likely, it's like if I pay, like I have a triathlon coach right now. I had a triathlon coach before I did Ironman, and that because I was more likely to listen to his instructions and follow his lead. I heard Bob Proctor in an interview the other day, and he talks about goals. And a goal, like if you've already done something, it's not a goal. It's not a good goal. If you've already done it and you already know how to do it, it's not a good goal. A goal is something that you don't know how to do. And so to think that you're going to be able to do something on your own without the help of other people, a team, like the bigger your team, the stronger your team, the more your chances are of achieving that goal, whatever it is. And so in recovery, it's like you've got the sponsor, you've got the therapist, you've got the coach, you've got treatment, you've got yoga. I mean, there's just so much to it. So tell me kind of how has a coach helped you first? Let's first talk about how, like your views on a coach and how a coach has helped you. in your life?
Yeah, so it's helped me with, again, it's that accountability. I need like the layers. And again, just for me, even though I coach, sometimes me knowing I'm going to have my coaching call and I need to get some stuff done because he's going to ask me is I need that. So accountability is huge. Even just pain for the coach. And like the coach that I have worked with in the past is not cheap. And I needed to actually get over some of my own money story, and that extra investment of me paying, the more I pay, the more I'm going to want to like do the work, right? So that it stretches me, but it's an investment. And if the more invested I am in myself, the more likely I am to do it. And so it's helped me in so many ways with accountability, having the coach that can point out my blind spots, support me, but also give me that kick in the butt when I'm falling off track and call me out on my stuff. So yeah, those are the main things. And, you know, as a coach myself, now I get to like share that same stuff. So I also gather a lot of really cool, short, powerful questions, which I believe a great coach is doing more listening than talking. And I believe that every coachee or client has all the answers within them. And so this isn't about me telling them what to do. It's about asking short, powerful questions so they can uncover the answers within them. Mm-hmm. Which is still sometimes challenging to do because I feel like I have all this wisdom and want to share, but sometimes as a good coach, you got to take a step back and be able to let them figure it out on their own.
Yeah. So tell me, I guess, tell me a little bit more about the coaching services that you provide.
Yeah, so I have a coaching program called The Shift. It's transformation of the mind, body, and soul. So my 90-day program is designed around, again, uncovering some of those hidden beliefs, uncovering what might be stopping you, slowing you down from having the life that you desire. It's about a big piece of it as we structure it out for 90 days. There's one coaching call a week. We do Zoom calls or FaceTime calls. We dive deep into, so most people are surprised to discover that they're trapped by their lives, their families, their jobs, and they don't have the time to do this. We start to create new habits, rituals, actions, and beliefs that you can implement in the busyness of your own life. So we look at things like self-love is a huge one, values and goals, mission statement, identifying our own saboteur or our own self-sabotage. And then a lot of it is the practice of personal responsibility, which to me means taking personal responsibility for the things that you can control. So I'll take a step back. As an example, if someone is in a situation that has them all jammed up and they need coaching around it, we will look at the practice of personal responsibility. Okay, let's look at the situation objectively. What can I control and what can I control? So we look at what we can and we take huge action on what we can control, and then we let go of the rest. And we can walk through a whole scenario, and when they start to see what they can control and they let go of what they can't, they walk through the session and they're way more free because basically they're not trying to control what they can't control anymore. So that's just one example, but it's just living the serenity prayer. But sometimes as why it's important to have a coach to walk you through that so that they can point out the blind spots and see things that you can't see because you're in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's the serenity prayer is powerful. There's a reason that it's recited so often at 12-step meetings. It's like, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yep. And it's standed the test of time. And it's one of those that, like, if you really, and that the personal responsibility exercise actually when I first did it myself, had nothing to do with the serenity prayer. But as I looked at it, I'm like, that is living the serenity prayer, but walking through it with somebody else. So I tie also in with the coaching a ton of mindfulness, a lot of meditation. All of my coaching clients get a Muse meditation headband. which that measures it's biofeedback for the brain. And there's a 90-day workbook that everybody gets. And it's just starting to implement these little practices, tying in mindfulness so that really we can start to, as a coach, we're not therapists. The past comes up, but we're looking at where are you at? Where do you want to go? And what's getting in the way? It's all of yoga, meditation, and personal development. It's all about creating more awareness. Awareness is the first step in creating any kind of change. So we see where we want to go, and we just start to have practices that wake us up, and so that we can see when something's in the way, when one of our old habits or beliefs or something like an old story is getting in the way of where we're wanting to go. So it's really all comes down to awareness, like step one.
So coaching is more about the present and, okay, let's move forward. Whereas working with a therapist, because this is a question I get all the time, what's the difference between a therapist and a therapist digs into the trauma and you work through the past with a therapist. Coach is the present, awareness, and let's move forward. Right?
Absolutely. Yep. And but then the past is going to come up because the past has led us to every decision we've made, but we're not going to go deep into that trauma work. That's more for a professional that is an expertise in trauma that can stay there a little longer. But yeah, we're like where are we at? Where do we want to go? And then creating little process goals to get there. Right.
Awesome. Well, Donny, I know we're running short on time here. I enjoyed getting to chat with you for a little bit. It was really good seeing you. And why don't you tell everybody how they can find you?
The best way is my website. It's just DonnyStarkins.com. It's Donny with a Y. On my website, there's the 90-day coaching program. I have online programs. The Shift to Sobriety is one I probably should have talked about. That's one where it's not one-on-one coaching with me. You do it all online, and you have a private Facebook group that you do a lot of the weekly work with. The Shift to Self-Love. There's a ton of stuff on there. That's the easiest place to probably find me. And I'm going to be coming out with a subscription for yoga and meditation because a lot of people are still doing at-home yoga. So that'll be launching by the beginning of next week. So Instagram's just Donny_Starkins. You can find me anywhere though.
Yeah. And when you do start teaching yoga again, when yoga classes open up, where do you teach?
Yeah, here in Phoenix at the Madison Improvement Club, Moksha Yoga, and Scottsdale at Modern Yoga.
Yeah, Donny's one of the best teachers around. Love taking his classes. And yeah, Donny, thanks again. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you for having me. And I want to just acknowledge you back for all the amazing work that you're doing. And I'm grateful to call you one of my best friends.
All right, buddy. Have a good day.
Thank you.